In the last lecture in transformers, we will discuss the transformer under the loaded condition and try to see what are the losses in the transformer. So last class we were discussing the transformer under the ideal condition, and we have seen that in ideal transformer we don't have any losses. So all the losses in the transformer is zero for the ideal transformer. Then one by one we will add the losses and try to find out the equivalent circuit of the transformer. So at the beginning we have started with the EMF equation, and then we have started with the no load current. So when the transformer is under the no load condition, then the current drawn by the primary winding is equal to I naught, which is basically used to produce the flux in the core. This I naught, when under the ideal condition, will have only one component, that is I mu, which will be used to produce the flux in the core. However, the value of the current I naught will have one more component, which is I mu plus IW. This IW is used to include the losses in the transformer core due to hysteresis and eddy current. So if you draw the phasor diagram of I naught, then we can see that there are two components. One is the magnetizing component I mu, which is in phase with the flux, whereas the other component IW is in phase with the supply voltage V1, and the no load power factor angle is equal to phi naught. So phi naught is basically the angle between the voltage and the current of the no load condition. So the component I naught can be resolved into two components. One is IW and another is I mu. And I naught is a vector quantity, so it will have a sum or the absolute value, which is under root of IW square plus I mu square. So this we have discussed in the previous class. So we'll start our discussion for the today's class. So some of the important points that we have to note from the previous discussion is the no load component of the current is very small, about 1% of the full load primary current. So the component I naught, as I said, it is responsible for production of the flux in the core, and its value is about 1% of the full load primary current. Second point, as I naught is very small, no load primary copper loss is negligible small. So the copper loss that is associated with the primary winding of the transformer, that you can neglect because it is very small, because the current I naught is very small. Means no load primary input is practically equal to the iron loss in the transformer. So if you have a transformer and the transformer primary winding is connected with the source V1, so the current I naught, which is taken by the primary winding under the condition that secondary is under the no load condition, so there will be no current flowing here, I2 is 0, then this I naught component is basically used to produce a flux in the core of the transformer, and this I naught component is about 1% of the full load primary current I1. So since this current is very small, the core copper loss associated with the winding we can neglect. So whatever the resistance is there in this winding, which is responsible for the copper loss, we will neglect this loss, and the entire amount of the power W1 and or W naught in the no load condition will be entirely used to produce include the core loss here. So whatever the core loss is there in the transformer, this no load power will take care. So as core loss is responsible for the shift in the current vector, phi naught is known as the hysteresis angle of advance. So we have seen that there is a no load component of the current I naught, and this angle phi naught, which is the angle with the supply voltage V1, is basically due to the shift in the current vector, and it is known as the hysteresis angle of advance. Also, core permeability varies with the instantaneous value of Im. So we know that the permeability of the core is not constant, and it is varying with the magnetizing current, because the magnetizing current is again the AC quantity. So current and flux both are AC quantities in the core of the transformer. Hence, Im is not truly sinusoidal, thus it should not be represented by a vector because vectors are represented by only for the sinusoids. But it makes no difference. Hence, we can represent this current as the sinusoidal quantity only. So, we will assume that the permeability of the core is a constant quantity, which is not so in general. So this was the important points to be discussed. Now we will load the transformer. So our next topic will be transformer under the loaded condition. So till now we have not loaded the transformer. So under the no load condition, our secondary current I2 was 0. But under the load condition, you will have some amount of the current I2. So how I2 is flowing and what I2 is doing, that we are going to see. So when the transformer is under the loaded condition, the secondary of the transformer is connected to load. So you will be having a transformer whose secondary winding is connected with a load, and this load will carry a current which is the secondary current I2, whereas the primary winding is connected with the source V1 drawing a current now as I1. Now we will not say it as I0 because I0 is under the no load condition. So we will represent the primary current as I1, secondary current is I2, and I2 is flowing through the load. Now, what is the definition of this load? So load can be resistive, inductive or capacitive. So this load can be either you will have resistive can be, or it can be inductive, or it can be capacitive, or it can have a combination of any other quantities which is equal to the Z, that is the total impedance of the load. Hence load is independent, it can be a DC load or it can be an AC load. The current I2 that flows through the secondary winding of the transformer. Due to the presence of this load, the current I2 start flowing through the secondary winding, which was 0 in case under the no load condition. Now, what is the magnitude of the current I2? The magnitude of the current I2 will depends on the voltage V2 and the load impedance. So you know that current, which is equal to voltage by impedance from the Ohm's law. So its magnitude current will be dependent, I2 will be dependent on the voltage V2 and the magnitude of the impedance Z. So Z is the load impedance ZL. The phase angle between I2 and V2 depends on the nature of the load. So there will be an angle phi 2, which is the angle between the current and the voltage V2. So this angle I2 and V2 difference will depend upon what type of load you have connected. So if you have connected a resistive load, obviously the angle phi 2 will be 0 because there is no phase difference between the current and the voltage in the secondary when you have a resistive load. If you have an inductive load, the current will lag the voltage by an angle of 90 degree. If you have a capacitive load, the current will lead voltage by 90 degree. So if you have an impedance combination of resistance, inductance and capacitance, obviously the current voltage angle, the power factor angle will be somewhere between 0 to 90 degrees. So that we are going to see. So what is happening now? So when secondary of the transformer is kept open, it draws the no load current from the main supply. So here you have the main supply and secondary of the transformer is under the no load condition. So this voltage which led to the flow of the current I0 is actually producing a flux phi in the core of the transformer. Now this flux which is linking both the primary winding and the secondary winding is due to the mutually induced EMF, that is a production of E2 in the secondary winding, and E1 is directly produced due to the voltage V1. However, the current I2 will be 0 and there will E2 will be equal to V2. So the induced EMF E2 will be equal to V2, where V2 is the load voltage and E2 is the induced EMF. The no load current induce the magnetomotive force N1 I naught. So here the number of turns is N1, whereas it is linking the current I naught. So N1 into I naught ampere turns is basically the no load magnetomotive force. So this is the MMF under the no load condition, and these MMF is responsible for the production of flux in the core of the transformer. Now when the load is connected, what will happen if you connect a load here? So when the load is connected, the current I2 will start flowing through the secondary winding. So now the current I2, which was 0, now will flow from the secondary winding. So the current I2, which is linking with the number of turns N2, will lead to the production of an MMF in the secondary winding N2 into I2. So the MMF in the secondary winding MMF2 is equal to N2 into I2, which is the number of turns in the secondary winding multiplied with the number of current, magnitude of the current in the secondary winding. And this is linking the secondary winding of the transformer. So these force to set up a flux phi 2 in the transformer core. Now understood, due to the current I naught, a flux has been produced in the core. However, due to the load which led to the flow of the current I2, there is an MMF N2 into I2. This N2 into I2 will lead to an MMF phi 2 which will oppose the main flux. So phi 2 and I2 will oppose the main flux. So phi 2 will oppose the main flux in accordance with the Lenz's law. So this current I naught, which was under the no load condition, and when load is connected, basically the component of the I1 component I naught, which is producing a flux phi, is opposed by phi 2, which is due to the product of N2 into I2. Now what is basically happening? So as phi 2 is opposing the flux phi, the resultant flux decreases. So phi is in this direction, which is due to the no load current, and phi 2, which is produced due to N2 into I2 opposing, will lead to the total flux to decrease. So the net flux in the core is now decreased when you connect a load in the transformer secondary, and hence it reduces the induced EMF E1. So E1, which is the induced EMF in the primary winding, will reduce because the flux has now reduced. Thus strength of V1 is more than E1. So obviously what is happening? V1 is more than E1 because E1 has decreased due to this load current. Due to this load current, whatever the flux has been produced in the opposite direction has led to decrease of the flux in the core. This flux has decreased the induced EMF E1, and hence V1 is more than E1. When there is a change in the potential between V1 and E1, an additional primary current I1 will be drawn from the main supply. So now the current I1 will be equal to I naught, which is the no load component of the current, plus I1 dash. So this additional current has been caused because you have connected a load on the secondary side, and there is a potential difference between V1 and E1, and hence a result, an additional current I1 dash has been taken from the input supply. The additional current is used for restoring the original value of the flux in the core so that V1 is equal to E1. This current I1 dash will produce a flux phi dash, which is in additional with the main flux, and this flux phi dash will cancel out the phi 2, which is due to the secondary current I2. Hence the total flux phi in the core will remain same irrespective of the load. So basically when you increase the load, then what is happening? Due to the increase of the load, the current I1 dash will increase. That is, the more and more current will be drawn from the primary of the transformer. Hence, the phi1 dash, which is the flux produced due to I1 dash, will cancel the total flux phi 2 due to the secondary current. So the primary current I1 dash is in phase opposition with I2. So the current I2 which is flowing in the secondary winding and I1 dash, which is the extra amount of the current which is drawn by the supply due to the extra amount of the load, will counterbalance each other. So there will be counterbalancing of these two components. Hence I1 dash induce N1 I1 dash that set up a flux phi 1. So N1 is the primary turns and I1 dash is the extra amount of the current that has been drawn when you have increased the load, and these will produce a flux phi 1 dash which will cancel the flux phi 2 due to the load secondary. Hence the total flux in the core will be same. The direction of the flux is same as that of the main flux, and it cancels phi 2 which induced because of N2I2. So your phi 1 dash will cancel the flux phi 2 and the total flux in the core will remain same irrespective of the load current I2. Then in that condition, we can write a statement N1 I1 dash is equal to N2, that is the MMF that is produced by the extra amount of the current I1 dash is equal to the MMF that is produced due to the secondary current. So phi 2 is equal to, you will be having as phi 1 dash. So these MMF due to the primary winding which is the extra amount of the current is cancelling the MMF due to the secondary current. So we can write I1 dash is equal to N2 by N1 into I2, and N2 by N1 we can write a constant of proportionality K, which is the transformation ratio. So I1 dash we can write as K times I2. So the current which is drawn by the load I2 is cancelling with the help of a transformation ratio K, and an additional current I1 dash is drawn from the primary of the transformer. So basically in vector, if we write, then I1, which is the total primary current drawn from the primary of the transformer, is equal to the no load component of the current. So this is under the no load component and this is the load component. So when you connect a load, an extra current is being drawn from the primary of the transformer to cancel the secondary MMF. Hence I1, that is the net primary current. So net current drawn by the primary circuit I1 is equal to I0 plus I1 dash. So we will now look into the practical transformer concept. So what has happened when transformer with winding resistance but no magnetic leakage? So magnetic leakage we have discussed in magnetic circuit, that is the flux that is there in the air and not sustained with the core. So magnetic leakage is zero. So there is no leakage in the transformer. However, we will be adding winding resistance. So which was zero in the case of an ideal transformer. So both on the primary side and the secondary side we have added a resistance due to the winding. So in the ideal transformer, what was happening when there is no loss, then you will be having V1 is equal to E1 and E2 is equal to V2. So this was the case when the transformer is ideal. Now since you have added a resistance due to the primary winding and the secondary winding, there will be some amount of loss. This loss will not result the V1 to be not equal to E1 and E2 will not be equal to V2. So what will happen then? So in the practical transformer, there will be some resistance in both sides, that is the primary winding and the secondary winding, due to the presence of copper winding. So we can write the KVL equation in the primary side and the secondary side. So write the Kirchhoff's voltage law equation in the primary side. So you will get an equation V2 is in the secondary side, V2 is equal to E2 minus I2R2. that is the voltage drop in the secondary resistance, and E1 is equal to V1 minus I1 R1, that is the drop included in the primary winding. So these two equations now led the V2 to be not equal to E2 and V1 not equal to E1, and there will be a drop in the transformer due to the resistance. Now if you draw the phasor diagram of the practical transformer, what has happened now? So let us consider that the load is inductive in nature, because that will be the general case always. You will see that generally most of the load in industries are generally inductive in nature. So we will start our discussion from the inductive load. So at the beginning, in case of a transformer, we have discussed that our transformer, which was having an ideal transformer, you are having I naught is equal to I mu. So this we have discussed in the ideal transformer. So here you have the component I mu, which was equal to I naught in case of a transformer. Then we discussed that the transformer is having some amount of core loss. So the current I naught, which was only representing the I mu, has moved little bit ahead, making an angle phi naught with the voltage. So here you have the voltage V1 and here you have the flux phi. So this angle is phi naught, and I naught has a component I mu on the x-axis and IW on the y-axis. So I mu is used to produce the flux in the core, and IW is used to sustain the hysteresis and eddy current loss or the core loss in the transformer. But this transformer is having I2 is equal to 0. So the transformer is not having any loss in the any load in the transformer. However, if you load the transformer, so due to the I2, what has happened now? I2 is equal to K1 time I1 dash, right? This is what is happening. So we can draw the phasor diagram of the practical transformer, and we know that I1 vector is equal to I naught, that is the no load component of the current, which is we have drawn it here, plus the K times I1 dash. So this is what we have got it, right? So that we are going to see. So I1 dash we will try to get. So here you see there was a no load component of the current, which was the sum of I mu plus IW. So I mu plus IW will give you the no load component, but since the load is connected in the transformer I2, so since due to the connection of the load in the transformer, so you will be having some current in the primary side, which is I1 dash or I2 dash, anything you can say. So that is K time I2, and the I1 is basically the vector sum of I naught plus I1 dash, right? So I1, the total amount of the current, is the vector sum of the current I naught plus the counterbalance of this current. So I2 is in this direction, so I2 counterbalance you are getting on the opposite direction, K into I2. So this net equivalent you are getting in this direction, which is I1. So the total current drawn by the primary circuit due to the loaded condition is I0 plus I1 dash. Now I2 is lagging the voltage V2, that is the secondary voltage, by an angle of phi 2. So you are having an angle phi 2 here, which is lagging the due to the inductive load, and the voltage V1 is lagging the current I1. So this is your current I1 by an angle of phi 1. So here you are having phi 1, and then we will be try to find what is E1 dash and what is E2. So this we are going to find. Now generally in industries you will be having an inductive load. Now if you want to go with the capacitive load, what happen? If you have the capacitive load, the current will lead the voltage V2 by a greater angle. Here if you observe that V2 is here and I2 is here, however if you have a capacitive load, the current will lead the secondary voltage V2, and correspondingly what happened, the K into I2 which was here now it will oppose the current I2 in this direction. So K into I2 is here, whereas I naught, which is the no load component of the current, is here. So the total sum of the current I naught and I2 dash will lead to the current I1 here, right? Then you will be having an angle difference between V1 and E1, I1 as phi 1. Now also there will be a phase difference due to the KVL. V1 and E1, there will be a drop I1 R1, and V2 and I2, E2, there will be a drop I2 into R2. So in this way you can draw the phasor diagram of a transformer under the load condition. So now the transformer is under the loaded condition, and you will having a resistive drop in the primary and the secondary circuit. So this is for the inductive load and the capacitive load. However, if the load is not inductive or the resistive, what is happening? That is what we say a resistive load. So if it is a resistive load, your current and voltage will be in phase with each other. So I2 and V2 will be in phase with each other. Hence, you will be having I2 dash K into I2 exactly opposite to I2. So I1 and I2 dash will lead to the current I1, and there will be V1 and I1, there will be a phase difference which is equal to phi 1, and there is no phase difference between V2 and I2. So phi 2 is basically 0. So in this way, knowing the load condition, you can easily draw the phasor diagram of the transformer and try to find the current. So now we will just look into the equivalent resistance. What is the equivalent resistance? Because your primary winding is having a resistance R1 and secondary winding is having a resistance R2. Primary is drawing a current I1 and secondary is drawing a current I2. So these are the two parts of the transformer. So this is the primary winding N1, this is the secondary winding N2. So how do we find the equivalent resistance of the transformer? So resistance of the two winding can be transferred to any one winding. So you can transfer this R2 in this side, or you can transfer the R1 to this side, so that you can easily find out what is the R equivalent. So what is R equivalent? The total resistance of the transformer winding, primary and secondary. Now, the advantage of concentrating both the resistance in one winding, that is transferring R2 this side or R1 this side. What is the advantage of doing that? It makes the calculation very simple and easy, because one has to work on one winding alone. So here you have two winding, primary winding and the secondary winding. So there are two windings. So each time you have to find the loss I1 square into R1. Here you have to find the loss I2 square into R2. So two different losses you are trying to find. However, if you find R equivalent on the primary side, then you have to multiply it with I1 square R equivalent 1, or you can calculate I2 R equivalent I2 square into R equivalent 2. So that will be easy to operate. Then the equivalent secondary resistance referred to the primary. So what is happening when you are referring your R2 in this side? So R2 when referred to the primary side, we can write R2 dash is equal to R2 into K square. So R2 dash will be equal to R2 by K square, where you know that the value of K is equal to N2 by N1, N2 by N1. So you can write the secondary resistance when referred to the primary side, it is equal to secondary resistance divided by K square. Now where from this has come? So we have seen that R2 dash is equal to R2 by K square, but how do we derive that? So we can note that if you have transmit the R2 from the secondary side of the transformer to the primary side, you have denoted it with R2 dash. So you have denoted with R2 dash. So now what is happening? The loss on the secondary side, this side you have a loss I2 square into R2. So this loss, when it is transferred on the primary side, it will be equal to I1 square into R2 dash. So these two should be equal. So you can write I2 square R2 is equal to I1 square R2 dash. So basically, if you try to find what is the value of this R2 dash, then you will be getting it is equal to I2 by I1 into square into R2, right? And you know that the transformation ratio K is equal to V2 by V1 is equal to I1 by I2, or you can write this one as N2 by N1. So the current I2 by I1 can now be written as divided with K square. So you are just taking the reciprocal of the resistance. So neglecting the no load current, then I2 by I1 is equal to 1 by K, that we can get. Okay. So similarly, if you try to obtain, you have a resistance here R1 in the primary side, you want to take it on the secondary side as R1 dash. So whatever the losses you are having I1 R1, it will be equal to the losses due to I2 into R1 dash. So here by similar thing you can do and try to find out what is the resistance. So R1 dash is the resistance which is referred to the secondary side of the transformer. So it will be equal to K square into R1. So you have referred the primary resistance into the secondary form. So you can take the resistance from the primary side to the secondary side. So here we have taken the primary resistance to the secondary resistance. Here we have taken the secondary resistance to the primary resistance. So with the help of K square, either by dividing or with multiplying, you can easily take one resistance from one side to the other side. Then we will try to find out the equivalent resistance. So what happened in the equivalent resistance of the transformer? So the first circuit that we had obtaining is basically R01. So R01 means all the resistances of the secondary side we have referred, means secondary resistance we have referred on the primary side. R02 means on the primary side resistance we have taken on the secondary side. So basically when we are trying to find R01, then we get R01 is equal to R1 plus R2 dash. That is, we have referred the secondary resistance R2 from this side to this side, R2 dash. So the total resistance will be R1 plus R2 dash. And R2 dash can be written as R2 by K square. So your total resistance R01 is equal to R1 plus your R2 dash, and this R2 dash you can write as R2 by K square, and this resistance will be constant R1. So you will get the total resistance R01 on the primary side of the transformer. Second, similarly, if you try to find the resistance R1 this side and take it on the secondary side R1 dash, then what will happen R02? So R02 will have R2 constant on the secondary side and the primary side resistance R1 dash, which is taken on the secondary side of the transformer. This R1 dash can be written as K square into R1. So we can then operate on any one winding on the transformer. Either you operate on the primary winding of the transformer or you operate on the secondary winding of the transformer. So this winding is not required and this winding is not required when you try to do any type of calculation. Now, in the previous all discussions, we have not taken the leakage flux into account. So you know that what is a leakage flux? So the flux which is not sustained in the core and it is flowing through the air, that is known as the leakage flux, right? Now leakage flux is the flux which is either on the primary air, that is due to the primary winding, or in the secondary air or due to the secondary winding. So the flux which is linking with N1, so all the flux that is the leakage flux on the primary side will not link the secondary side. The secondary leakage will not link the primary leakage. So it is impossible to link all the flux with N1 and N2. So perfectly ideal transformer. So when we have discussed the ideal transformer, so entire flux phi is there in the core of the transformer. All the flux are there in the core of the transformer, and leakage flux is basically zero. But in the practical transformer, you will have some amount of leakage in the air. So the total flux will now decrease in the core of the transformer. So flux which is linking N1 does not link with N2, but part of this will be there through the air. So phi L1, that is the leakage flux in the primary side, and phi L2, that is the leakage flux on the secondary side, will be different. So these leakage flux, one will not link the other. So phi L1 and phi L2 will not link one another. It is due to the primary winding current N1, and this is due to the secondary winding current N2. So how do we represent the leakage flux then? So any practical transformer will have some amount of leakage, and that we have to represent in the equivalent circuit of the transformer. So the primary leakage flux is produced due to the primary ampere turns or the MMF, and the secondary leakage flux is produced due to the secondary MMF. So phi L1 is in phase with I1 and induce an EMF EL1 in primary but not in secondary. So phi L1 is basically the leakage flux which is in the primary side of the transformer, which is due to the current I1. It is inducing an EMF EL1. This is on the primary side but not on the secondary side. And similar conditions happen in the secondary side of the transformer, phi L2. So phi L2 is produced due to the current I2, and this is responsible for production of the EMF EL2. So at no or light load condition, primary and secondary ampere turns are small, hence leakage flux are negligible. So when you are having a light load condition, you can take phi L1, phi L2 is equal to 0. You neglect the leakage flux under the light load condition. However, when load increase, both winding are carry a huge amount of current, generating a large MMF, hence there will be a leakage flux. So what will happen when the load is more? So when the load is more, obviously the current drawn by the primary and secondary winding will be more, and since the leakage flux phi L1 and phi L2 is depending on the current I1 and I2, obviously its magnitude will be more. Hence, you can't neglect the leakage flux under the heavy load condition. Hence, we have to include the leakage flux in the equivalent circuit of the transformer. So that is represented with a value x1, that is an inductor connected on the primary side. So this is representing phi L1, that is leakage 1, and x2, that is the inductance on the secondary side, that is representing a leakage phi L2. Okay, so you can write x1, that is the inductance on the primary side, is equal to EL1 by I1, whereas the inductance on the secondary side you can write EL2 by I2, whereas EL1 and EL2 are basically the induced EMF due to the leakage on the primary side and the secondary side due to the air. So these whatever the leakage flux was there in the air, that has been represented with x1 and x2 on the primary side and secondary side. So now we are in a position to include all the quantities on the transformer. So basically our transformer was having a resistance R1 on the primary side and R2 on the secondary side due to the copper winding. And due to the leakage, you are having a reactance X1 on the primary side and X2 on the secondary side of the transformer. So the total impedance Z1 on the primary side and Z2 on the secondary side, you can represent it in the vector notation. So Z1, which is the impedance on the primary side, which is a vector quantity, can be represented as R1 plus J time X1, whereas the impedance on the secondary side you can represent as R2 plus J time X2. So the if you try to find the absolute value of Z1 or the absolute value of Z2, then it is easy to find with the complex notation. So it will be under root R1 square plus X1 square, and Z2 will be under root R2 square plus X2 square, right? Then if you remember, we have discussed in the ideal transformer V1 is equal to E1. So this is under the ideal transformer. Then we have added a loss in the transformer due to I1 into R1. Right now, there will be a loss due to the reactance X1 and X2 that will change the KVL equation on both the primary side and the secondary side of the transformer. So you can write the net voltage V1 on the primary side of the transformer V1 is equal to E1, that is the induced EMF on the primary winding E1 plus the total drop on the primary winding I1 Z1. So I1 Z1 you can write I1 R1 plus JX1. Similarly, E2 is the induced EMF in the secondary winding and V2 is the voltage in the load side. So E2 you can write V2 plus the total drop Z2. So I2 into Z2 you have to include in the secondary side. So I2 R2 plus J time X2 on the secondary side of the transformer. So this completes the KVL equation on the primary side and the secondary side, including the resistance and the reactance. The resistance is due to the copper winding resistance, and X1 and X2 are basically the leakage due to the net flux flowing through the air. Now again the problem of equivalent impedance calculation will be there because we have find out the equivalent resistance. So what is the equivalent reactance then? So similarly, how we have calculated the equivalent resistance, we will try to find the value of equivalent reactance. So when you have X1 on the primary side and X2 on the secondary side, then if you want to take the X2 on the primary side, so this will be X1 plus X2 dash, right? X1 will be constant quantity which is on the primary side, and X2 will be taken on the secondary side as X2 dash. So X2 dash, that is the reactance referred to the primary side, is X2 by K square, whereas if you want to take the primary X1 on the secondary side, X1 on the secondary side, then you can write X1 dash is equal to K square time X1. So you have taken the primary reactance on the secondary side or secondary reactance X2 on the primary side, X2 dash. So anything you can do. So the total reactance X01 is equal to X1 plus X2 dash, or X02 is equal to X2 plus X1 dash. So either you calculate on the primary side of the transformer or you calculate on the secondary side of the transformer. So if you are working on the primary side, you try to find out what is the value of X01. If you are working on the secondary side, you try to find out what is the value of X02. So we have find out in the previous two discussion R01 and X01, or R02 and X02. Now we are in a position to find the net impedance in the circuit. So Z01, that is the total impedance on the primary side, is due to the connection of R01 plus X01, so that we can easily find knowing the values of the resistance on the primary side and the secondary side. So all the quantities are referred on the primary side of the transformer. If we are working on the secondary side, then Z02, that is the total resistance on the secondary side, will be equal to R02 plus X02. That all the resistance is referred on the secondary side of the transformer. Then the magnitude of Z01, that is the impedance on the primary side, will be under root R01 square plus X01 square. That's all the calculations for the resistance and reactance on the primary side. Similarly, if you want to find the absolute value of Z02 or the magnitude, then it will be under root R02 square plus X02 square. So in this way, we have moved from an ideal transformer to a practical transformer. In the ideal transformer, we have seen that there are no losses in the transformer, so there is no core loss or winding loss, that is the copper loss, no leakage we have in the transformer, and slowly and steadily we have added the losses in the transformer. First, we have added the core loss, that is the hysteresis and the eddy current loss. So when we have added the core loss, we have represented that with IW, and then we have added the load in the transformer. And what is happening when we have added the load in the secondary of the transformer? Then there is a current which is flowing I1 dash, that we have discussed. Then we have discussed that how to add the resistance on the primary side and secondary side, and what will happen due to the addition of the resistance. So you will not get a voltage V1 which is equal to E1, and E2 and V2 will be different due to the drop in the primary side and the secondary side. Then we have added the reactance, that is basically the leakage reactance on the primary side and the secondary side, and then we have calculated the values on the primary side and the secondary side voltage drop, and finally we have seen how to transmit one resistance and reactance on the from one side to the other, so that the calculations become easy to find out the net equivalent impedance on the transformer. So in this class we will be stopping our discussion till here, and then we'll discuss in the next class.